video, I'm going to tell you about some of the cons as a Black American man in Spain. My last video, I told you guys the pros. Here we have the other side of things. Once again, my name is Jordan. I've been living in Spain since 2016, so a little more than 5 years now. I originally came here to teach English to Spanish children, and I fell in love with the country. But as with any place, you've got the good things and you've got the not so good things. So we're going to explore the not so good things in this video. The first one here is the dating scene. For me as a Black American guy, it hasn't been easy compared to other places that I've been to. A lot of people have the notion that, a Black man in Europe, you must be having women falling all over you, right? Well, it depends on how you look at it. For me, most of the girls that have had an interest in me and I've been able to see for a while, most of them have not been Spanish. Most of them are European girls, or even occasionally American girls. But the European girls come from other European countries outside of Spain. The UK, Italy, Poland, Germany. My success rate with Spanish girls is pretty low. The one thing that I've noticed is that oftentimes they have boyfriends. It seems like they find these guys when they're in high school and they stick with this one guy for the next 8 to 10 years. So I remember when I first got here and I was quite curious about Spanish girls, I often got a lot of no because, oh, I have a boyfriend. I have a boyfriend. I have a boyfriend. And it was just like, damn, like, are there any single Spanish girls in this entire country? My second year in Spain was when I met my ex-girlfriend, and she's Spanish. That's the only Spanish girl I had a high level of success with. The others, I could barely even get a Spanish girl to agree to go have a drink with me. It's quite different from, for example, in the Dominican Republic, where it was easy to meet girls like that. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. And I spent time questioning why is that? Why is it so difficult to go out with a Spanish girl? Sometimes I see the look, they seem to be attracted, but once you approach, the answer is usually, no. As I said before, I worked in Spanish public schools, and I had quite a good relationship with the principal there. And I asked her about this. Why do it feels like I see these girls looking at me sometimes, but if I approach, ask for a name or, can we get a drink later or something like that, it's like, no, or I have a boyfriend. And she explained to me and she said, well, the thing is, these girls are attracted to you, but for whatever reason, maybe it could be the disapproval of their family, that they're not too keen on going very far with a Black guy. Now, that's not to say that all Spanish women are like that. That's not true. As I told you, I dated one and we were together for more than 3 years. And her family was great with me. I had absolutely no problem with her family. They were great people, honestly. It just didn't work out between me and her. So I get the feeling there's a little apprehension about, what's Dad gonna say? And as I told you in the other video, as an American, you enjoy a certain level of privilege, but only to an extent. You can see in this area there's a limit to it. As I said, that it can be difficult to meet Spanish women and to date them. Here, it can be equally difficult with Black women. At least my experience of the Black girls that I meet here, whether they're American, Venezuelan, Dominican, whatever it is, they don't want to have anything to do with me. I don't know. I don't know. I guess they come here, then they're looking for the olive skinned Spanish guy with the dark hair. They don't they don't mess with the black American guy. So I don't know, sisters. I don't know what's up with that. You know, but that's been my experience. These black girls here don't pay me no mind at all, man. No mind at all. And it's a shame because I love my sisters, man. I don't I'm not picky about skin colors or races or anything like that, But mm-mm. I think according to my experience as a black American guy, you will have your best amount of luck with non-Spanish European girls. And that leads me to the next section that it can be challenging even just making Spanish friends. Like not on a dating or a romantic level at all, but just to make Spanish friends that you can go out with regularly, have a drink with, have a fun night out with, or take a trip with. It's at least for me, it's been very difficult to meet Spanish people. My first couple of years here, I stayed in the English bubble where everyone around me was American or British or Australian or none of those nationalities, but with a fluent level of English and non-Spanish. And we moved around in those circles because it was almost impossible to penetrate the group of Spanish friendship. Like I told you before, it seems like they date the same person and stick with that person for the next 8 to 10 years or whatever. It's the same thing with their friends. They have this group of friends that they've had since they were in elementary school or in high school, and those are their friends. And maybe if you're lucky, you get in good with one of them, and they invite you to come out one night with them and have some gin tonics, and that's it. You'll never be invited out to hang out with them ever again. And it doesn't mean you did anything wrong or you were a bad person or they didn't like you. It's just they have a very closed, their social relationships are very closed. And as a foreigner, it's very difficult to penetrate that. And that's even with someone with a fluent or a high level of Spanish. So it's not just a language barrier. In the beginning, when I first got here, perhaps, yeah, language barrier could be a consideration. But at this point, no. I can speak fluent Spanish, but it's still difficult to make Spanish friends. So, with those two things said, sometimes you might feel lonely here. As I came in with a program that brings foreigners, English speakers, to come and teach English in public schools, what happens is that American bubble suddenly gets smaller and smaller, unless you continue doing this program. Because many people, they only come for 1 year and they go back home or they move to another region of Spain. So it's difficult to also keep a steady group of friends here. So yeah, sometimes you might end up feeling lonely. It's very true. It's very possible. Also, as a black American man here, there aren't many other, I don't come across many other brothers. Not really. I've only met a handful of other black American men here in the country, and all of those men have been in Madrid. Nowhere else have I met any other black American guy. I've always been the only one. So if you're looking for that solidarity, if you want to make a friend group with people that look like you, it might be a little challenging if you're a guy, I mean, women have it easier. There are definitely way more black American women here than there are men. That's for sure. You can try to make some black American friends or black friends that speak English using some of the Facebook groups. Um, I'm I haven't had good experiences with that. I'm not going to put the name of the group out there. If you do a Facebook search for black people in Madrid, you'll easily find this group. It'll be one of the top groups. Um, I went to some of their meetups, which it was cool. It was all right, but I don't know. For me, it was a negative experience. In that group, I found a lot of naysaying. It was very rare to find anybody that had anything good to say about Spain. It was always complaints about this, complaints about that. Now, I get this. This is a cons video. It is. It's a cons video. But at the same time, I gave a lengthy pros video. I want to give a balanced view of this country as according to my perspective. But this group was always, you know, this is racist, that is racist. Oh, they keep touching my hair. Oh, they said this. Oh, they keep looking at me. Oh, I think they're just fascinated with me. They're just have an obsession because I'm black. They don't look at me as a person. It was just a lot of, I couldn't deal with it. And I didn't think it was a balanced, a balanced group really. You know, no one ever posted anything fun. There were no memes. There are no recipes. No one shares any music. It just seemed like a place where people just come to vent. And I didn't need that negativity in my life. So that clouded my opportunities to meet other black English speakers because I removed myself from that group because I couldn't deal with it anymore. You know, in that group, I would even see comments that were, well, straight up racist. And it made me think that, you know, if you read something a Spanish person wrote or said that was the equivalent of what you just said about them, you know you'd be up in arms about it. And you'd be hitting that keyboard, making another post about some racist thing that you came across. And it's like, so you don't like when someone makes you feel uncomfortable, but here in this little group, you think it's okay to say racist things, you know? And everybody puts a little ha 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 on it. And I think like, why are you even in this country if you dislike white people? Why are you even here? All right. So, this is the one that even today I still struggle with. And it's the simplest thing ever. It's walking down the street, going through the metro system, being on the bus, entering businesses. Anybody who comes from the States or the UK and has spent some time here, they can tell you that Spanish people don't have street etiquette. They don't have street etiquette. So many times, you know, in English speaking countries, we walk on the right side. I walk on the right side, and generally I walk in a pretty straight line. Spanish people are not like that. Um, they play chicken on the sidewalk, or they walk like cats. You know, it's just they don't walk in a straight line, and this person's approaching you, coming directly at you, and it's like, okay, so who has to step aside for the other one here? We have this whole sidewalk, just me and you, but your intent on on being on the left side, your left side, and I'm on the right side, and it can be difficult sometimes. It's a little frustrating. They're not very considerate of other people passing. It's been many, many times that I walk down the street and you have a group of 3 or 4 Spaniards, and they'll walk shoulder to shoulder. And as you're approaching them, you have to squeeze yourself by them to be able to pass. If not, completely wait for them to pass by you because they will not move or make space for you to walk by them. Now, I don't know, this is really cultural. I don't think it's a conscious thing where they do it to be hostile. It's just culturally they're not taught to be considerate of other people on the sidewalk. Um, Many times someone will get a phone call and they'll stop right there, dead center in the sidewalk, and they'll walk back and forth on their phone, talking, and everyone passing by is expected to walk around this person. Versus where I come from, if I'm on the sidewalk and I take a call, I step to the side. I'm close against the wall so that people can continue to pass. Not here. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Walking down the streets in Spain is even more complicated when it rains because uh, Spanish people don't really wear hoods. Not really. Not for the rain. Just for the cold maybe, but not for rain. So what you see is a lot of people on the streets with umbrellas. This is very frustrating because I'm a taller guy and they don't consider that they have this huge umbrella that, oh, let me move it to the side or lift it up so this person that's walking past me isn't hit by my umbrella. I've been hit in the head by people's umbrellas so many times, it's not even funny. And the thing is that it's very difficult for Spanish people to apologize. I don't know what this is about, but I've been hit in the head with bags on the train. I've had my shoes stepped on. I've been bumped. I've been nudged. And it's very rare that anyone turns around and says, oh, I'm sorry, or excuse me. They'll just keep moving like it didn't happen. And well, this is quite a change. Coming from Baltimore, you step on somebody's shoes, you bump into somebody, you better turn around and say something because this could very easily turn into an event. This could get real political real quick. Um, but here, they don't even consider it. They have no problem with standing in doorways and standing on stairwells. It can be very frustrating that you want to walk into a restaurant or a bar and there you have people that are just standing there crowding the doorway and you can't even get in, or you have to say excuse me to even walk outside. It's like, of all the places to stand, why do y'all stand in the doorways? And you see it time and time again, and it gets a little frustrating. This is quite different from in the States. For example, I remember one morning I was going to work. I lived in the center of Madrid, Anton Martin. And as I was walking, as I was entering the metro system, there were a group of guys, 8 o'clock in the morning, there were about 5 or 6 of them, standing in the stairwell to go down into the metro drinking beers. Everyone coming in and out of the metro had to navigate and squeeze past these guys who just decided it's a good idea for us to stand in the metro exit and have some beers at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, I know where I come from, security would have came and told them, hey guys, can you not stand here? People need to be able to move in and out of here. Can you stand outside or stand to the side? But no, not in Spain. Security's not going to tell them anything. It's very normal to enter the metro system, and if you don't take the escalator, you take the stairs. There are people that are just sitting on the stairs on their phones, and you have to navigate around them. It's a big difference. Um, when you're using public transportation, personal space is not really considered. Maybe a little bit more with the pandemic now. The Spanish people are a little more concerned about keeping distance. But pre-pandemic, forget about it. Forget about it. And sometimes it's completely unnecessary. Um, I've had to control myself on the metro where sometimes you get someone that decides to literally stand right up on you like you're a wall. And I'm like a hair away from saying like, get the hell away from me. Why are you up on me like this? And I have to remind myself, this isn't my country, this is my culture. People here don't really consider personal space. Um, for example, in the States, if there's an empty seat, there's no one there, Americans will go sit where there's no one. But in Spain, no. They'll just take the closest seat to the door, no matter whether there are people there or not. I remember I couldn't believe it one day where I was at a metro station that was the end of the line, and I was going back the opposite direction. So this train was completely empty. There was no one on it. I get on, I choose a nice little seat in the corner, and a Spanish woman follows me onto the train. Where does she sit? She sits literally right next to me. I couldn't believe it. There are, let's say, about 10 to 12 other open seats on this car. It's only us two here. And where does she come to sit? Literally right next to me. And I'm thinking, this has to be a joke. This has to be a joke. It's just me and you on this train, and you come and sit directly right next to me. You could have any of these other seats here. There's no one here. But this is a great example of how they are. Personal space is not really considered by Spaniards. So your first few months or even years here, this will make you uncomfortable. So don't expect when you get your shoes stepped on or you get nudged that they're going to turn around and say, I'm sorry. That's very rare. Getting off the metro train can also be a challenge because, well, typically in America, we step to the side of the door to let the people come off the train and then we enter. No, Spanish people will stand right in front of the door and you have to squeeze past them to be able to get off the train. The downside of this is that I've noticed in my time here in Spain, I've become ruder. I'm not as polite and courteous as I was when I was living in the States because I just felt like what's the point? What's the point of me being polite when no one else here is? So, I mean, I've gotten to the point where if you block the metro train while I'm getting off, I'm going to knock into you and I'm not going to turn around, I'm not going to say anything to you. So, another downside is business hours. So in the States, you find pretty decent business hours. Most restaurants do not close in the middle of the day. Um, Businesses do not close in the middle of the day. The schedule is from the morning till night without interruption in most places in the States. But here, it's not like that. Now, you find much better business hours in the big cities like Madrid and Barcelona. A lot of Madrileños will like to tell you that the siesta doesn't exist in Madrid, and they're liars. It does exist because you will find, especially restaurants, that will close at around 4 p.m., 4:30, and they won't open back up until 7, 7:30, 8 o'clock. So if you're hungry during that time period and you have a craving for a specific place, you might be out of luck. That happened to me many, 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 many times. Now, as I said, in a big city like Madrid and Barcelona, there are other options usually that still remain open. But if you go to the small towns, the pueblos, or smaller cities, mm, everything's closed up. This happened to me a lot when I lived in Cartagena, Murcia, which is a small town in Murcia. It also happened when I lived in Palma de Mallorca, and when I lived in a small village called Soller in Mallorca. Um, After I got done teaching my Chinese students online, I would finish up at about 3 o'clock. I type up my reports, and normally I'm out the door at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I'm starving. I want to eat because I've been doing back-to-back classes. I haven't had lunch. And so many times, out of luck, I walk out and everything's closed up. I could go to Burger King, I could go to McDonald's, but if you want Spanish food or even sometimes Chinese food, it's closed up. You're going to have to wait until the evening, until 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock to be able to get back in there and get what you want. This was a little surprising, especially living in Mallorca, which is a small island off the coast of Spain, south of France. Um, and you would think because it's a very big tourist destination that they would have extended hours to be able to feed the tourists and make more money, but it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Stuff still closes up. And even some places, even some bars and restaurants don't even open on the weekends. Customer service here is something that is very different from what American customer service is. You in the States, you walk into a restaurant and the waiter greets you, "Hi, my name is Jordan. I'll be your server for today. Is this your first time here? Oh, okay. May I suggest this, this, and that? These are our most popular items. What can I get you to drink?" They come back in 10 minutes or 15 minutes and ask you, "How's the food? Everything okay?" That doesn't happen here. That does not happen here. A lot of times you walk into a place and they just say, "¿Qué quieres?" or "¿Qué te pongo?" What do you want? What can I give you? They're not going to introduce themselves, and it'll be very strange sometimes if you ask them for their name. um, and it's just very dry. They're not going to come back and check on you to see if the food's okay. They're not. They're going to give you what you ordered, and they're going to walk off. And if you need something, you'll have to call their attention. They're not going to come check up on you. But at the same time, there is no expectation of a tip here. The people that work in restaurants, they're salary employees. So that explains a lot of it, that they get paid the same amount of money whether you're happy or not. So there's no incentive for them to be people pleasers. Outside of the restaurant realm, the notion that the customer is always right does not exist here. It does not. I've seen arguments in businesses where someone felt something wasn't done correctly, and they bring it up to the person working the register or whoever it is, the clerk or whoever, and this person will argue with you. They will argue with you and they'll get an attitude real quick. You know, in the States, normally people working customer service, typically they show a little bit more restraint, but not here. They'll give it to you. I've had companies that have screwed up with billing and have billed me twice for the same service when I only have one contract with them. And when I call and I explain this isn't right, you're charging me twice, I've had the agent actually yell at me on the phone or cut me off. I can't speak. They're rude. They very customer service here is pretty shitty. So if you order something and it doesn't turn out right, you don't like it, good luck sending it back because it'll still probably pop up on your bill unless it was a grand catastrophe where they gave you something completely different than what you ordered. And that's because Spanish customers normally don't rock the boat. If it's a longer wait than usual, maybe they've been waiting too long for their food, Spanish people are not very likely to complain. They'll just wait it out and they'll eat their food and they'll leave. No, they won't complain about anything. Versus in the States, yes, we're very quick to say, hey, where's the manager? I need to speak to the manager because this isn't right, this is taking too long or whatever. And they'll take it off your bill or whatever. They'll compensate you, but not in this country. That's not going to happen. They have these things that are called hojas de reclamación. Basically, it's a paper, it's a complaint form. Now, I don't think that they're really actually taken seriously. I've never filled one out. But I remember sometimes, a few times, sitting down in Spanish restaurants and the waiter already starts off with this attitude or trying to rush you, just very poor customer service. And I've gotten up. I just straight up got up and said, okay, I'm leaving. And this happened several times when I was with my ex-girlfriend who was Spanish, and she just kind of looked at me like she didn't know what to do. Like, oh, we're leaving? Because this notion of you're not treating me right, I'm not going to spend my money here, it doesn't really exist here. You might have poor customer service and Spanish people will stick it out. They'll pay. So when I got up from the table and I'm like, hey, baby, let's leave. We're getting out of here. We're not spending money here. You know, she looked at me like, oh, what? Oh, no, okay. But I have no shame about it, man. I mean, that's the American in me, and that's going to stay that way. You know, I'm not paying my hard-earned money in a place where you're going to treat me like crap. So as I mentioned in the other video, the pros, that many Spanish restaurants will have menu del día, which is just the menu of the day, where they have maybe normally about 8 different options. 4 options for first course and another 4 options for the second course. If you get lucky, you find some that have a third course. And these are just the specials of the day. And it's usually cheaper than to order something a la carta. So, this can be, the menu del día can be a little frustrating or misleading sometimes because they have only certain hours that they serve menu del día. But what they'll do is they'll leave the menu del día signs out like it's still available. So when you come and you sit down and you look at the menu del día and you say, I want that, and that, they'll say, oh, pues ya no está. Oh, there's no more menu del día. And you say, well, then why do you have the sign sitting out here that this menu del día and I get here and you're not going to serve it? Why don't you take the sign inside? It's misleading. Or you get there and you ask, okay, I want the paella mixta and las costillas, the ribs. Pues ya no me queda paella. I don't have paella. Okay, well in that case, give me the fabada. I'll have that. Ya no me queda. I don't have that. It's like, what? Can you like scratch that off? Can you erase that? Why do you still have that on the chalkboard if you don't have it? Because people come here looking for it, and here I've already sat down, and you tell me you don't have this, and this, and it's just like, come on. So, the saying here is Spain is fun until you have to get something done. Spain is fun until you have to get something done. To stay here legally, there's normally a lot of paperwork involved. And it can be very, very difficult to get your paperwork done. It is difficult. It can be a nightmare. They have these places that are called extranjerias. They are immigration offices where all the foreigners have to go to do their paperwork. And the funny thing is, everybody there only speaks Spanish. This is the immigration office, and you won't find anyone that speaks English, or their English is very limited. So you have people that are from many different countries when you're in there waiting to be seen for your appointment. But if you don't speak very good Spanish, like when you first get here, it can be difficult for you to understand what's going on and what this funcionario, this worker, is asking of you. It's also very difficult because they are very inconsistent. The worker, the funcionario, they will tell you, okay, to complete this, to get this paperwork done, I need you to bring paper A, B, and C. Don't worry about paper D. It's unnecessary. You say, okay. You come back in a month with paper A, B, C, and you have a different funcionario, and you submit your papers, and he'll say, oh, well, where's paper D? And you'll say, well, the last guy said that you don't have to do that. Oh, yeah, you have to. I'm sorry. I can't process your paperwork without that. I'm sorry. Next! And sometimes, to get another appointment, it can take you another month or another 2 or 3 weeks before you can get back in there and be seen again. And that can become a problem because a lot of your paperwork has deadlines. And you have to have this stuff in by a certain amount of time, or you are illegal in the country, and you don't want that. That happened to me. I'm speaking from experience. So here they have this thing that's called empadronamiento, which basically means you have to go file paperwork with the local town hall to say, I'm living here, this is my apartment, and I don't know what the purpose of it is, but basically you have to have this done to be able to renew your EU ID, your Spanish ID, which is necessary to show that you are legally in the country. So this is one more step you have to get done. So I was living in Madrid and I had gotten a new teaching position in Mallorca. So it is impossible for me to renew my ID in Madrid if I'm moving to another location, another community. Spain has places, they're called communities, but they're sort of like states. So I have to do my empadronamiento in Mallorca. The problem was at that time, was it was very difficult to move to Mallorca because even though my ex-girlfriend and I at the time, we were looking for apartments online and calling these places, no one would take us seriously unless we were already on the island. So we couldn't find an apartment and book one to already have that out of the way. No, we had to be there first. So we get there, and then I have to get an appointment to get the empadronamiento. By the time I got that appointment done and got the next appointment to actually turn in all the paperwork, my ID had already expired. So I still tried to file all the paperwork, and I got a response back from the government saying, por decreto del rey, by king's decree number something, no, basically. And I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do now? They're saying I can't renew my ID because I've missed the deadline, but I've missed the deadline because I can't get an appointment ASAP. These appointments sometimes are a month or more out, if you can even get one. So I remember I went to the extranjeria again to ask, okay, so what can I do? I don't want to be here illegally. And they basically told me, oh, well, you have to go back to America and start the whole application process over again. And I'm like, no. I'm not even trying to hear that, man, because that's a whole nother 3-month process. No way. So for about a year, I was living in Spain illegally. I was able to rectify that because Spain recognizes domestic partnerships. My ex-girlfriend and I were able to get a domestic partnership which gave me residency in the country. Now that in itself was a headache because we wanted to do all of the paperwork ourselves to avoid paying for an expensive lawyer to do it. They can be pricey. And we would go from this office to that office, turning in paperwork here, there, and there will always be a reason why they won't accept the paperwork. It's always something. And it became, I mean, it made me kind of cynical because as I got everything together, it's just like, well, what are they gonna come up with this time to say no? And it was exactly how it went. And then it got to the point where we couldn't even find appointments online to be able to submit all the paperwork once we had it together. There were just no appointments, none. So I'm like, so how long do I have to remain illegal here before I can even turn in the papers? Um, Eventually, we just broke down and paid a lawyer. And the messed up thing about it is the lawyer was able to get us an appointment like that. Because apparently lawyers can wave their magic wand and they're able to see or they have access to appointments that the general public don't have access to. Seems a little corrupt that I have to give this person 600 or more euros to do this for me when I should be able to do it myself for free. But the system is made in a way that it's impossible nearly for you to do this paperwork on your own. So my advice to do paperwork, beyond just renewing your ID, if you want to get pareja de hecho, domestic partnership, if you're looking at marrying someone, if you're looking at getting residency outside of the English teaching program, hire a lawyer. Just don't even waste your time running between extranjería and extranjería trying to turn this paperwork in because they're just going to give you the rigmarole. They're not going to, it's next to impossible. Just hire the lawyer, bite that bullet, pay that money, and, just take some stress off yourself. Now, thankfully, in that time period when I was living in Spain, illegally, I was never stopped by the police. Not once did anyone ever stop me and ask for my papers, which they can legally do. It's not like the States where an officer has to have probable cause to approach you and ask for those sorts of things. Just by looking at you, they can walk up and ask for your identification, and it's perfectly legal. My barbers are Dominican. I only go to Dominican barbers, and to speak to them about that, many of them have been approached and stopped on the street and asked for their papers to see if they're in the country legally. I could easily pass for a Dominican, and thankfully the police never asked me for identification, not even once. Now, I always felt a little nervous walking by police officers. It made me feel like a criminal, knowing that if they ask me for my papers, that's the end of my life here. I'm gone. I go back to the States and I lose all my possessions and everything I have. It was a risk. But at the same time, I had a Nigerian friend when I lived in Palma de Mallorca, and he's been illegal in Spain for, I don't know, probably close to 10 years now. And he would tell me, oh, don't worry, they're not going to deport you. They don't have the money to do that. They just don't have the money to deport everyone. Maybe he's right. I don't know. This guy, he has a record. I know that he went to jail, to prison. I don't know why, but I assume it was probably drug related. And I asked him, so respect, how are you able to, that was his name, respect. How are you able to even stay in the country? You've committed a crime. They let you out of prison and you're still here. And he said, oh, it's because I have a Spanish son. So he has a son with a Spanish woman, and this son is a legal citizen. So they will not deport you if you have a child here who is a Spanish citizen. But they also will not give you legal recognition. So respect is in a limbo where they won't deport him from the country, but they also won't give him legal status, which will allow him to work legally and do things like that. And I imagine if he were to leave Spain, it might be difficult for them to admit him back into the country. I never asked, but it might be a little tough for him on that one. And walking into the extranjería, the experiences there can often be disheartening because some of the funcionarios, the people that work there, they really don't have the patience. I don't know if they've been jaded or what, but they just seem like they don't want to deal with foreigners. They want to deal with anybody. And sometimes if you don't understand what they're telling you in Spanish, they seem to get visibly frustrated. They're not very patient people. And everyone will tell you to be a funcionario, a government worker, it's a gravy job where it's a job these people get paid very nice money, and it's a job they have for the rest of their life. It's very difficult to fire them or to replace them. So there's very little incentive for them to go above and beyond. I remember being there one day and there was a line out the door of people waiting for their appointments to file their paperwork in this office. And the funcionarios get up. Ah, vamos a tomar un café, no? Sí, vamos. We're going to go have a coffee, right? Okay. And they all get up and they leave. They all get up and they leave to go have a coffee. And all these foreigners are just standing there like, so I guess we're just gonna wait for them to come back, right? Thankfully, there were maybe two or three of them that stayed behind, but you can imagine this slowed down the process because you've lost a good portion of the staff for the next 20, 25 minutes. And they go have a coffee and go smoke and come back leisurely when they feel like it. I remember trying to make an appointment online for the extranjería in Mallorca, in Palma de Mallorca, and it was very difficult because there was an error on the online system where I could not get any appointments on the island of Mallorca. I could only see appointments for Ibiza. Ibiza is another island, it's a Balearic island, but you have to take a ferry or a plane to get there. And I'm not trying to pay that money when I'm on this island and I should be able to get an appointment on this island. So I called the extranjería in Palma de Mallorca to see if maybe they could just make me an appointment on the phone with their office. Call, no one picks up the phone. No one picks up the phone. So it wasn't far from where I lived. So I looked at the time, I said, okay, it's 2 o'clock. It says online they don't close until 5. So I took a stroll down there to go talk and ask, can you guys maybe make an appointment for me in the moment? I can't do it online, whatever. There's an error in your system. And it's like they don't want to even acknowledge your presence if you don't have a little stub that says you have an appointment. I just wanted to go down there to ask a question, and I get this little old Spanish lady, and I just wanted to ask, can I make an appointment here in the moment for another day? And she didn't even want to hear it. Didn't even want to hear it. She hands me this sheet of paper with an email address on it saying, oh, you have to ask your questions here. We have to go home to eat now. And I'm like, what? But it's 2:30 in the afternoon. You don't close until 5. But they just have this a very lazy attitude in the extranjerías. So you find the worst of the worst of Spanish bureaucracy there. Employment. For Americans, almost the only thing that you'll be able to do in Spain for the most part is teach English. Unless you come from, an IT background, you're a programmer or something of that nature. Beyond teaching English or using English, for example, in a call center or something, there are very few options for us. The pickings were even slimmer before Brexit because the Brits, they had EU citizenship, so all they had to do was pop up at any Spanish private school. Hi, I'm John. I'm a native English speaker. Boom, hired. They don't have to do any paperwork for them. As an American, you try to get that same job. No, because they have to go through all the bureaucratic paperwork to get you to be a legal employee. So they would always take the Brit over the American, 99% of the time, unless you came with something very, very, very special. Now we're on even playing ground because of Brexit. They're no longer EU citizens. They have to do just as much home paperwork for a Brit as they have to do for an American. But in my experience, finding jobs outside of teaching English is very, very difficult. And I've applied to my fair share of jobs here, and it's difficult. It's very tough. So as I mentioned before, I go to Dominican barbers to get my hair cut because, well, they're the best. They're the best here in Spain. Finding someone that can cut black hair can be challenging depending on where you are. Here in Madrid, it's not difficult because there are plenty of Dominican barber shops and you can find them quite easily. But for example, when I was in Cartagena, there were no Dominican barbers. There were no Cubans. There was no one that looked like me that knew how to cut my hair. The only ones that were cutting black hair in Cartagena were the Moroccans, Arabs. And they did okay. They did okay, but Still, the haircuts they gave weren't very good, but there were no other options besides learning how to cut my hair myself, and I don't trust myself that much with a pair of clippers. So I took the Moroccan haircuts, but I was happy to go to Mallorca where I could find Dominican barbers, and living in Madrid, once again, I could find Dominican barbers here. Now, finding black hair care products can be tricky. I know that in Madrid, if you go to Lavapiés, it's a big cultural mix, a big immigrant neighborhood. You can find uh, shops that sell black hair care products. But in other places, it's tough. I didn't see any place like that when I was in Cartagena, and I didn't see places like that when I was when I was in Mallorca. I did see some hair salons that were owned by African women that knew how to do black hair, but there was nowhere for me to buy black hair products. I couldn't buy any grease, to put in my hair. So the only option you really have is to bring it from home. If you're thinking of coming to Spain, stock up. Stock up on whatever hair care products you normally use and bring all that with you because it's going to be tough to find here. Your only other option is Amazon. You might not find what you're looking for on Amazon Spain. You might be able to find black hair products with more success on Amazon.co.uk, Amazon UK. To buy something from Amazon.com, the US site, and to get it here, you're going to pay an arm and a leg in shipping. So let that be known. When I went back this fall to visit my family in the States, I stocked up. I stocked up on on my grease because I can't find it here. In addition, it can be tricky for you to find American ingredients. When I was in the States, I used to make collard greens just about every weekend. I love collard greens. It's one of the things I cook the best. But I tell you what, it's been a good solid 5 years since the last time I made some collard greens because I can't find all the ingredients I need here. I have never seen smoked turkey leg. I do my greens with smoked turkey instead of pork. There's no smoked turkey here. You ain't gonna find it. Even collard greens themselves can be a little tricky to find. And if you're looking for, the Wiley's pack of collard green seasoning, forget about it. You're not going to find that here, and you're not even going to find it on Amazon. You have to buy that from Amazon.com, the US site, and as I mentioned, you're going to pay an arm and a leg to get it here. So there are certain recipes that I would love to be able to make from back in the States that I just don't do it because I can't find the ingredients. I'm from Maryland, so I'm an Old Bay boy. Old Bay, you're not going to find it. Not on the street. Not in any Spanish store. You're not going to find it. The only place you can get Old Bay here is on Amazon. Amazon Spain does carry Old Bay as well as Amazon UK. The problem is it is super expensive. Super expensive. You're going to pay probably double for that same canister of Old Bay that you would pay in the States. So when I went back to visit my family, oh man, I stocked up on Old Bay. I got enough Old Bay now to last me probably the next 2 years. Because when you go to the States, you'll get it cheap and it's easy to bring over. Customs won't give you any problem with it. But to find it in a store, impossible. To buy it online, you're going to pay double or more. So I encourage you to not just watch this video because this video might give you a skewed opinion of Spain if you don't watch my pros video too. I have to say that I didn't want to make a 2-hour long video where I give both perspectives, so I've split them up. But please, if you haven't already watched it, check out the pros video so you can see why I've stayed here for 5 years, despite some of the things that irk me from time to time. As I mentioned, every place has its things. There's no place that's perfect. And as a Black American, I feel like I don't really have any particular, utopia on this planet. In my own country, I feel despised to a degree, And I feel like no matter where else I go, I will always be an outsider, a foreigner, someone that doesn't belong. Even in Africa, I got stares and people would laugh at me and would basically make me feel that I just wasn't part. So that said, there's no place where you're going to feel 100% at home all the time if you're black, you're American, and you're male. But of all the places that I've been, this is the place, Spain, where I feel the most comfortable. And that's important that I say it. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned because I have a lot more of Spain to show you guys.